Crack. Okay. Good morning, you beautiful rays of sunshine. Welcome back to my channel. What are we talking about today? It's books again. I've been waiting to film this video for a few days because we've been having really rainy, cold weather, but today the sun is out. I don't know if you can really see, but I promise it is, and it's probably going to go in behind the clouds and then come back out for us, and the birds are chirping and the trees are blooming and the flowers are blossoming, and I have a strawberry in my ear. So all of these books are for an episode of the Rex Room. So welcome back to the Rex Room. If you are unfamiliar with this, I guess, series, I just recommend you books that I think are fabulous and variations on a theme every episode. So this time it is spring books, magical books. A couple people actually requested kind of cottagecore book recommendations, which I thought was a fabulous idea, so that's what I've tried to incorporate as well into a lot of these recommendations. We have flowers, we have changing seasons, we have magic, we have wholesome, sweet stories to make you smile, fill your heart up, which is what I've really been craving recently. And yeah, we have love, we have transformation, we have water, we have beautiful lyrical flowery writing, and without further ado, let's just get into these 11 recommendations. Can you hear the birds? I think they want to know. The birds want to know what books they should read this spring. Oh my gosh, I love it. Alright, so the first book I'm going to recommend, the cover screams spring. I love reading romance in spring as well. I'm actually reading a couple romance books right now, which is awesome, but this one I haven't read yet, and I would really like to get to it really soon. So many people said it's amazing, and that is The Lady of the Camellias by Alexandre Dumas fils. So this cover is just gorgeous. I love it. This is a love story, and we are following this lady named Marguerite, and she is known as the Lady of the Camellias because she's always wearing that particular flower on her person, somewhere on her outfit. It's in her hair. I don't know. She just has this flower everywhere. And she's very determined never to fall in love. She doesn't want to get married. She doesn't think it's ever going to happen for her, but then she meets this dude named Armand, I think his name is. He's young, he's handsome, and he is hopelessly, both, in love with her. The first sentence is so nice. It is my opinion that you cannot create a convincing character until you have made a broad study of human nature, just as you cannot speak a foreign language until you have studied it thoroughly. So this one just screams like flowers and romance and spring to me, so I really want to get to this. It's not too long either, so there is number one. A lot of these books have a lot to do with nature as well, so the next book I would like to recommend to you is The Year of the Hare by Arto Pasalinna. This is a Finnish book, a piece of Finnish literature. I read this a few months ago, and it was just wonderful. It was everything I needed. It'll make you like just want to go out and run through the countryside, never come back, quit your job, adopt a rabbit, and just like completely change your life. And if you can, change into like a tree as well, just transform into a tree. This was so wonderful. This is about a journalist. His name is Vatinen, and on an assignment down a winding country lane, his van runs into a hare. So he jumps out of the van, saves the little hare, and then takes it to the vet because it has a broken leg. From there, he decides to abandon everything he's ever known. This little rabbit kind of acts as the catalyst to push him onto his journey to reconnect with nature, get back to, I don't know, reconnecting with everything in life that he's kind of pushed away in his job, in his marriage, in his city life. And he goes on this crazy journey all over Finland, through the countryside, breaking boundaries, and really getting down to kind of all these absurd rules we've made for ourselves and how we've drifted away from what kind of we're made of biologically and stuff like that. It was beautiful. There were so many scenes of nature, as you can imagine. We have gorgeous description of Finland, and it's just really nice seeing this relationship between Vatinen and the hare, because they kind of form this language all their own that they can speak with each other, and it's so nice to see, honestly. It was so wholesome. It made me smile. And I just love it so much, so I would recommend. All right, next up, holding this book just makes me so happy. This is one of, I think maybe it's my favorite read of the year so far of 2021, and that is The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. I cannot tell you how much I just love this book with my whole entire heart. I listened to the audiobook maybe last month as well. I gave it 5 stars. This is such a stunning book. This is a middle grade about a girl named Luna and a witch named Zan and a very ancient swamp monster named Glurk and a little tiny dragon named Furion. This book just made me cry. It is so full of magic and nature, and the writing is just absolutely gorgeous. It is so beautiful. It just plays like a Studio Ghibli film in my mind. The Girl Who Drank the Moon. It is absolutely flawless. So we have this city called the Protectorate, and every single year they have to leave a baby, one of the babies of their town, as an offering in the woods because they think that a witch comes out of the woods, takes their baby, and that's what keeps their protectorate safe. Otherwise the witch would come in, rampage, destroy, and completely obliterate their town. But the witch in the woods is this elderly witch named Zan, and she does no such thing. She thinks it's so weird that there's a random baby in the woods every year, but what she does is takes this baby and brings it to different cities far away from the protectorate, kind of off the border and stuff like that, and she raises them and gives them to good homes. But one year she accidentally feeds Luna, who is the baby of that year, Moonlight, and Moonlight is magic, which we all know. And so Luna becomes enmagicked, and she has all of this very powerful power from the moon because she drank moonlight. The landscape and the environment of this book is just glorious. Like, I just want to go into this book and play around because we're set in a swamp. We also have this volcano that is threatening to erupt every so often, and there's so many like magical little things in this forest and in this swamp and in the bog that kind of the people of the Protectorate work in. Like, it's just such a wonderful play on nature and all of these different little natural elements and stuff like that. The relationships in this book, we have a huge cast of characters. I want to keep talking about this book for forever and ever because it just made me so happy. Chapter 1 is yes, there is a witch in the woods. There has always been a witch. If you can, honestly, no matter who you are, I think you would enjoy The Girl Who Drank the Moon. It was gorgeous. The writing was wonderful. I bawled my eyes out, and it's one of my favorite books of all time now. So, speaking of Studio Ghibli, another book I cannot fail to recommend is Kikis Delivery Service by Yaiko Kodono. This is so good, so good. I read this in 2020, and I've never seen the movie. I've only read the book, but recently I've started to watch Studio Ghibli's films very, very slowly. It's just what I'm able to do at the minute, like around 5 to 15 minutes of it a day, and I finished Howl's Moving Castle a couple days ago, and now I'm on to Spirited Away. But after that, I would love to get to Kiki's Delivery Service because the book was gorgeous. In this one, we're following Kiki, and she is a witch. Again, there's definitely a common theme here, but I think like these very wholesome stories about witches and magic, I definitely love reading in the spring, as well as in October and the spooky season. But Kiki's Delivery Service is just one of those that is just so wholesome and so sunny. There's so many beach scenes, there's so many scenes of nature. We have a forest again. Kiki, on I think her 13th birthday, she has to set out and fly to a new town and install herself there with her cat named Gigi to be that town's witch and kind of do favors for them and develop a relationship with them. But the town she gets to, she realizes they are very prejudiced, and they don't really understand, nor do they want a witch in their town. And so you follow Kiki as she overcomes all these obstacles. She's learning how to use magic in what way she can. She ends up opening this delivery service. I'm really playing with this flower ring. I should just... She opens this delivery service where she goes around and she basically becomes like the post service for this town, and it's just so sweet, so wholesome. It'll make you smile. Hopefully it'll make your cheeks hurt, and it's just so good. It's so good. I might reread this again in the spring because I loved it so much. So that is Kiki's Delivery Service. In the spring as well, I love reading fairy tales and fairy tale retellings. It's like all I want to read. Spring feels so magical. It feels like maybe you are living inside a fairy tale because here you just get to see like the magic of everything bursting and blooming and changing, and it's like you completely forgot what spring or summer or warm weather, in my case, felt like right now. So, oh, that was my tummy. Did you hear that? So I would also recommend Daughter of the Forest by Juliette Marillier. This is a retelling of, I think, Seven Swans, right? I read this a few years ago. It's honestly really good. It's a very slow moving, completely focused on nature and the natural sort of book. In this we have our protagonist Sorka. That is how it's pronounced, I believe. At least the audiobook narrator pronounced it that way as well. She is the 7th child of Lord Colum of Seven Waters. So she has 6 other brothers, and their relationship, first of all, and just how good this author is at like distinguishing people from one another. You might think it like would be confusing and hard to get into following 6 different people, but they're all so unique and you know exactly who they are. It's just wonderful. So she has these brothers, but then unfortunately her father, Lord Colum, marries this new woman named Una. And as you might imagine, in fairy tale fashion, Una is a wicked, evil sorceress and she curses Sorka's father. Also in the process, her 6 lovely brothers are all turned into swans, and Sorka is kind of banished from her homeland. She runs away. In the forest, she runs into the fair folk. She asks them for help, and she finds out that she can break this spell if she remains completely silent, not uttering any sound at all. And in the silence, she also has to knit 6 shirts for her 6 brothers out of, I think, thistleweed or something. It's like this very prickly, hard to touch weed that like destroys your skin and your hands, but she has to make her brothers these shirts. So you follow this huge journey that she takes. We meet so many people, there's so much going on. Like I said, it's just lovely to follow her very slowly through the forest, accomplishing this task. It's just really interesting in storytelling as well, because like I said, she can't speak for basically the whole book as she's trying to rescue her brothers and break this curse. There's so much fairy tale-ness in this book and magic as well. There's also a huge trigger warning for sexual assault. I think Juliette Marillier really handles these topics like really well. Yeah, definitely a very hard-hitting fairy tale spin on Seven Swans, but it was so good. I remember adoring this, so that's another one I would recommend. Next, we have a book that I recently finished, and I honestly wasn't the biggest fan of it, but I'm recommending this one because I think literally everyone else is, and everyone else is gonna love this book. It's perfect for spring. It's so wholesome, so sweet, so magical, and that is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. I finished up this book a couple days ago, and like I said, I wasn't super into it, and like I don't know why, because this book is exactly what I was in the mood for. This isn't a middle grade, but it is focused on magical children, and more than that, our protagonist, Linus Baker, is this very unhappy man. He works at the department which oversees these orphanages for magical children, and he basically has to go to them, write reports on them, to see if they have to be kept open or shut down based on his report. This book reminded me a lot of the movie Up. Everyone I've talked to who has read this has absolutely loved it. I gave it 3 stars. I just don't know why. I think for me, like, I've read a lot of these very wholesome, beautiful, magical books, and I think a lot of them for me were more impressive than The House in the Cerulean Sea. This one seemed a little bit simple. A lot of the metaphors that were there were very on the surface, but honestly I think like just falling into Linus's journey to this island where this house is located, which is the orphanage, and just seeing him form relationships, break out of his shell, learn like about life again and what it is to be happy, and like just to see these children and kind of what they are and what powers they have as well. I think it's just like so good for right now. It did make me smile a lot. These children are marvelously morbid, and I would recommend this one because I can see that so many people would like love this book, and I know they do. I'm just still trying to pinpoint why it didn't work out completely for me. Like I still enjoyed my time with it, but definitely very magical. There's a lot of imagery, a lot of water, a lot of magic, a lot of really sweet relationships in this book as well. So that is T.J. Klune's book. Next, we have another book focusing on flowers and romance, and that is Tulip Fever by Deborah McGack. I haven't read this one yet. This is historical fiction. I've actually heard a lot about this one. I think there was a film. I'm not sure if it was in the same name, but it's about, I think, the same story. Like I said, this is historical fiction. This time we're set in Amsterdam, and I think 17th century. It's a story of love, deceit, changelings, and mistaken identity worthy of a restoration dramatist. As you may imagine, being set in Amsterdam in the 17th century, the flower we are focused on is tulips. A lot of these books just really scream cottagecore. I think I've saved the most essential cottagecore book for last, but this one I would love to get around to. I know as well we're following the relationship between, I think, this woman who is posing to get her portrait painted and the painter himself. We also follow Cornelis, who is an aging merchant, and he commissions a talented young painter to preserve his status and marriage on canvas. This one also has like paintings in the middle of it. Oh, yeah, I just cracked the spine. Sorry. Wow. I didn't really know these were here. This one is gorgeous. Maybe I'll take this out and put it on my wall, honestly. But yeah, I haven't heard anyone ever talk about this, but it's something I've been like holding on to for spring and for flower season. So that is Tulip Fever. This next book is just so gorgeous. It's definitely very hard-hitting. I read this last month as well. One of my favorites of the year again, and that is The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy. This was incredible. The writing is so gorgeous. I've spoken a lot on it by now, but just the way that she constructs a sentence is new. It's like refreshing. This book feels like spring water. It feels like spring rain. It feels like you're being washed and cleansed by like her writing. More than that, the story is set in the town of Imanam in the state Kerala in India in 1969, and we follow two twins. There's usually two twins, Esta and Rahel. They have their mother and the rest of their family and their cousin Sophie, who comes over from the UK to stay with them. And there is a huge tragedy in this book. There's so much imagery, like the God of small things in this book. I've like said it before, and so many people crazily have told me that Arundhati Roy, like, she doesn't do second drafts. She writes, and the God of Small Things, once she's written it, that's it. It's there on the page. It's not going anywhere, which is just crazy because this book is full of the most intimate, tiny, minuscule detail you could ever imagine. It's like she takes and breaks down the atoms of everything and writes what she finds when she gets to the bottom of something. It's gorgeous. It blew me away. It's just, if you can, I would highly recommend reading this book as soon as possible because it just like changes the way you look at life, I think, and the way we have relationships to people and to things, and it's just gorgeous. I didn't really know very much going into this book, and I think that's how I want to leave it because all I knew was that we were following these two twins and a huge tragedy in their life as they're brought together and apart and together again, and it's just, I'm like still thinking about it. It's just gorgeous, and it was perfect for spring, like the lush, it's just lush descriptions. All right, next, here's the book that I would just consider like 100% the founder of cottagecore, and especially one of the characters in this book because, well, Samwise Gamgee isn't in this book, is he? But Bilbo Baggins is. So this is The Hobbit by Tolkien, yes. I couldn't not include this on here. This is like so perfect for spring, in my opinion. It is the definition of goodness and wholesomeness. Look at this cover. I absolutely adore this cover. I found this one at a thrift shop, and we even have some bonus stickers on the inside, but I haven't read this in years. I have not read this book since I was a teenager. No. I first read this book, I think, in grade 6, so I would have been 11, and I haven't read it since then. Yeah, so it's high time for me to get around to it. I know there's a gorgeous audiobook of The Hobbit as well. I forget who narrates it. Oh, it's Andy Serkis. Andy Serkis narrates it, so I need to get my hands on that one because I just really want to read this again, and I think I will have an excuse very soon to pick it back up. But if you are unfamiliar with The Hobbit, we are following Bilbo Baggins, who is the Hobbit, and one day a wizard named Gandalf and a whole bunch of dwarves come knocking on his door, knock down his door, eat all his food, and just take him on an adventure. And that's it. There's dragons. There's a lot of food. I love Tolkien's food writing. Oh my gosh, I'm just getting so hungry right now. But yeah, this one had to make this episode of the Rex Room because how could it not? And finally, we have the last one. This one I put on because it's about transformation and change and mythology and transforming from one state to another, which is what spring, at least for me, I guess, looking out my window, is really all about. So that is Ovid's Metamorphoses. This is the translation by Rolf Humphreys and annotated by Joseph D. Reed. Yeah, so if you've never heard of the Metamorphoses, this is Ovid's spin on mythology, on myths, on tales, all about transformation. From the fall of Troy to the birth of the Minotaur and many others, they're connected together by the immutable laws of change and metamorphosis. The myths tell the story of the world from its creation up to the transformation of Julius Caesar from man into God. So, There's probably a lot of myths in here that like maybe you've heard of, but you just didn't know where they came from. To give you some examples, we have the creation of the gods, we have the story of Cadmus, we have the story of Pyramus and Thisbe, we have Perseus, Niobe, the story of Jason and Medea, we have the return of Theseus. There's just so many in here. I'm so looking forward. I think what I would like to do with this one is, again, just read it very slowly over a set amount of time, just kind of going through myths one by one. And I think it's perfect for right now as well, and Ovid's writing is gorgeous as well. So there we go. Those are 10 book recommendations for spring. If you'd like to see more episodes of the Rex Room as well, I do have quite a list going based on your guys' recommendations for recommendations. But if there are any like specific episodes you'd like to see, please leave them in the comments, because I'd love to know. I love making these as well. And yeah, I really wanted to make this episode because, like I said, I've been meaning to pick up a lot of books like this recently, and that's really all I'm in the mood for right now, is very sweet, wholesome spring books of magic and flowers and just sunshine, honestly. So thank you so much for watching. Yeah, let me know what you think if you read any of these books, but until then, me and my strawberry are gonna go frolic in the sunshine. Yes, I'll see you very soon in the next video, as always. Ciao.